Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
TCWT Live.
It's been a
It
while.
is good to see you. I was
Couple of
just
days.
asked something.
You were just asked
Yeah,
something?
just a couple of days. I was gonna bring up the fact that that's the second time I've heard that song this week.
This week? That's right.
If you missed it on Monday, we interviewed Amy Mitchell, co-author with Chief Judge Belvin Perry Jr., who presided over Casey Anthony, the Black Widow trial, and more. He's been in law for he retired after what,
Yeah.
40 years? Was it 40
I
or
think
something?
so, because he was a prosecutor and then he became a judge and then he became the
Right.
chief judge.
My favorite thing was when he told us, well, it's not my favorite thing, but it was one of them, when he told us, "I wasn't your normal prosecutor, I had a big old afro." I was like, "I like you, sir."
Well, I also like that he says some people need to meet their creators sooner than later.
Yeah, yeah. It was fun. It was nice because Papa Bruce Crime got to watch the interview. And he was like texting me live while we were doing it. And he just thought he thought Judge Perry was so cool. And we talked about just how hard it must have been for him not to be like, "Hey, prosecution, you need to motion for this instruction or
Right.
she's going to go free." He's a very ethical, procedurally focused judge. It was interesting because it got me interested in finding out about my my great uncle who was a judge in Franklin County, Ohio, in the Columbus area. He was also a prosecutor as well, and he's kind of defined in the same fashion, very procedural, very to the book, that kind of a thing. It turns out he may have been one of the prosecutors who handled prosecution of the 3 to 5 inmates who were involved in I think it's Lawrenceville prison riot in that Columbus area in '93, I think it was. I'm gonna see if he'll come on. He's got to have some kind of story.
Oh, it's gotta.
But yeah, so that would be kind of fun to do. Maybe night court or something well, maybe not night court. I don't think he's a night owl. He's retired now, so I'm sure he doesn't mind. They bring him back as like a judge to fill in, but he's retired now. But he's the one who married Mrs. Bruce Crime and me.
Well, he probably eats dinner at like 4:45, 5 o'clock, so he was probably in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock.
I don't know. I think about them and their family, and they're more party centric than I think some
Okay,
of
then
the
maybe
other
they stay up
families. So
till
we'll
10.
see. I don't know. Maybe that means I get an hour out of him, right? So he'll be falling asleep at the end, but that's all right. Well, everybody, welcome in. Thanks for being here. We're so happy to see you. We've been busy, huh?
We have been busy, and I have to tell you, tonight's case for me is a doozy.
Yeah. Right in this case, as I was going through it, my jaw just kept hitting the floor.
Yeah.
And you know what, Lady in Gray, I'm very glad you didn't have to research this case because a
Yeah.
lot of betrayal, a lot of violence, just a lot of people involved. So yeah, but you know what? Before we get to that,
Yes.
I think we need to get to some stupid news as a palate
Absolutely.
cleanser.
Yes, let's start off that way.
Do it.
Just got an awesome face paint job. What do you think?
I like turtles. Really, sometimes I don't watch the news.
Because we see this dude every day. I mean, every day.
I didn't make this kid pass out on my floor. People wanted to beat me.
Oh, it's just like, dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just
Customer out here, what's the best kind of firework to buy?
Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy?
Where are your parents?
I'm
Someday
sorry.
I'm gonna
It
freshen
gets
that.
me every time.
I love that kid. He's like, I mean, I have some PTSD from the bullying, but I mean, let's be honest. Maybe he had it coming. I don't know.
I don't know, but
Um,
he just makes me crack up. Where's your parents?
where are your parents? Uh, all right. So to start off with, we're gonna head back to air travel, which you've done a lot of recently.
I have. I've
e-
spent some time in the air.
Except, um, this I don't think you would have told me if this happened. So Qantas Air, right,
Mhm.
apologizes after a mature-rated film was played to all passengers. Now, this mature-rated film is called Daddy-O, and Daddy-O features Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn. So it's not entirely correction. It's restricted in the US. It's MA 15 plus elsewhere. It's rated 18 in the UK for language, sexual material, and nudity, strong coarse language or nudity. So there's a lot apparently in this movie. Thinking of Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn in the same movie in which that's rated that way kind of creeps me out a little bit. But um, that being said, let me explain what happened. Um,
Yes.
the inappropriate screening happened on a Qantas flight from Sydney to Tokyo after the plane's in flight entertainment system failed to work before takeoff. After staff were unable to fix the fault, the plane took off after a delay of more than an hour, with the crew deciding to show the same film to everyone instead. However, to the horror of some passengers on board the 9.5 hour flight, the sexually explicit drama Daddy-O then began to play. To make matters worse, travelers reported they were effectively forced to watch because they were unable to turn off, pause, or even dim their individual screens. One
Oh.
of those wrote on the website Reddit, which is where you should always go for, uh, firsthand accounts. Quote, the movie they played was extremely inappropriate. It featured graphic nudity and lots of sexting, the kind where you could literally read the texts on screen without needing headphones. It almost took an hour of this before they switched to a more kid-friendly movie, but it was super uncomfortable for everyone, especially with the families on board. Um,
Yeah.
I, j-
Yeah, that
yeah,
would be a bit much. Yeah, that didn't
yeah.
happen
I
to me.
mean, you remember? I mean, early, like maybe 2 decades ago, traveling to and from Japan and things like that. You're on for a while, but like nowadays on airlines, they have like this entire library that you can pick from.
Mhm. Right.
Then you had a choice of like 2 channels, 4 movies, and they just played incessantly, right? I think it was something like that. But, yeah, that really sucks for the parents. It's like, "No, no, 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 no. I know what we said. I know what we said about your Kindle. Look at that. Look at that."
Yeah, I mean,
Stare at
I can't imagine as a parent being on that. It's not like you can just get your kid to stop watching because the minute you say, "Yeah, don't watch that," the kids are gonna be like, because they're gonna know that
well,
there's something that they need to see
right.
because you don't want them to see it. So, I mean, I one
Qantas
time
Air.
was on a
Go ahead.
flight and there was a kid sitting on in the middle, and then there was, like, a teenager on the aisle. I was on the window. The teenager was watching Magic Mike, and the kid maybe was 10 years old,
I mean,
and
I just
he looked very uncomfortable.
I think Qantas should change their tagline to Qantas Airlines. We take care of the sex talk. Um, I mean, just might as well answer all the questions all at the same
Might as
time,
well just get it out of the way. I mean, now I'm gonna have to go
Right.
look up that movie.
Well, and I thought about that too because it looks like like an art house movie. Like Dakota Johnson,
Oh,
I think produced it, and so it might be worth a check. I guess the whole
isn't
point is
she
like some woman comes back, flies back. She's wait, what?
isn't she dating Chris Martin or engaged to Chris Martin?
Dakota Johnson's partner is Chris Martin. Yep.
Yay,
And her
Terry.
her
They're
mother is
both
Melanie
cute.
Griffith.
Yes, and her dad is Don Johnson.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, she's the one from 50 Shades.
So
I
yeah,
never saw.
I've never seen it either. I read half the book
She's
and I got so embarrassed I couldn't keep reading the book because I was scared.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know. I just kept feeling like somebody was reading the book over my shoulder, even when I was
Sh
alone.
She is 35 years old. Sean Penn is 64 years old, and none of the
Ooh.
two should be.
Now I get Daddy-O. I get the title now.
Uh-huh. But oh, speaking of, I mean, like 50 Shades, just for funsies, I grabbed the book, and I read it in a Chick-fil-A for fun. So, they were psyched about that.
Like I said, I was too embarrassed even reading it in my own bedroom. I don't know why. I kept looking around like somebody was watching me and like I was doing something wrong.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
So yeah, I didn't finish reading it.
Whoa. No, I mean, I honestly, I have read I've tried twice. I've read like 5 or 6 chapters. Is there a little more than you think in it? Yes. A
Yes.
little more plot? Yes. Is it enough? It's too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shaming anyone. I mean, I used to get embarrassed reading
just
Harlequin romances.
to shame someone would be shaming 80% of the world, I'm sure, at this point.
Yeah. But
Didn't 50 Shades start as a Twilight fan fiction? Isn't that how that started?
Twilight's the vampire-y thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
In Twilight
yeah.
about vampires or something? See,
50 Shades.
I'm not hip. I'm not cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 50 Shades started as Twilight fan fiction, and there's PDFs on some sites, that Christian and Anastasia are still named Edward and Bella. So, there's that.
I think we just learned something new about Buffy Bot.
I mean, listen,
Buffy,
the more you know.
if I need to read it and get over myself, just let me know. I still have it on my Kindle. And I think that was the problem. If I would have had it in book form instead of Kindle, I'm always more worried about reading something like that on a computer or a tablet. Because what if somebody's put
Oh,
like cyber thing on there and they're watching me read it?
I don't know. I mean, so, like, after those chapters that I did read, just like Qantas Air, I felt like I needed to go back to my parents and ask them some questions.
Now, question, did you try any of the stuff you read about?
It is that is a two-party decision. And we'll just leave it at that. My safe word's pineapple juice.
Of course it is.
And or more, please. One of the two. Whatever.
I think mine is always, yes, please.
Yes, please. Yes, please. All right. Do you want to go? I had 3. Do you want me to do one more?
I could tell my cute little one since mine's little bitty.
It's a little bitty one.
It's a little bitty one. Not really. Caught on camera, Ohio police officers attacked by runaway giant pumpkin. Luckily, no officers or pumpkins were harmed during the event.
What part of Ohio was this?
Bay Village Police Department. I mean, there's a video. If I knew how to operate all this tech stuff, I would show the
It's
video.
a city in Ohio.
But
it's near it's to the west of Cleveland.
But like the big thing blows over the officer who's standing up and like it's all on top of his head. It like takes him
like
out.
an action movie.
So, but I thought it
Insane.
was cute. But what I find really funny are the comments on it. Down at the bottom of the article, somebody says, Do you think holiday decorations are getting out of control?
It's a pumpkin. What?
It's a
Like,
pumpkin.
you know, I mean, I'm
There's
sure at
gotta
that
be a
point he would have taken
Karen
pumpkin spice.
in every group. There's got to be a Karen
There's always a Karen.
or a Kyle.
Or a Kyle.
I
Says
can
the
say
guy
that
with the
'cause
man bun.
my first husband's name was Kyle, so
Um,
should've known.
all right. So we've got kids watching sex. We've got cops getting struck with gourds,
Pumpkins.
and and now we've got a Greek man in this happened in Greece. So true Greek man convicted of causing a disturbance. What did he do? Well, a judge in northern Greece on Thursday imposed a suspended 1 month's prison sentence on a man convicted of disturbing his neighbors by repeatedly sneaking into their properties to smell their shoes. Oh, Bells is asking. It's not really a bun. I guess it's not long enough for a bun. So it's a little bit of both.
It's a hump.
It's halvesies. It's half and half, like me. So yeah, this fellow is sniffing shoes. The 28-year-old Greek man told the Thessaloniki, the Greek court, that he was unable to explain his behavior, which he said had caused him great embarrassment. No shit, Sherlock. He stressed that he had no intention of breaking the law or harming anyone, and neighbors testified that he never displayed any sign of aggression during his nocturnal visits or discharges. The man was arrested before dawn on October 8th in the small town of Sindos, about 15 kilometers west. Police had been called after a neighbor found the defendant in his front yard sniffing his family's shoes, which had been left outdoors to air. The court heard that there had been at least 3 similar incidents in the past 6 months, despite neighbors having asked the defendant's family to get him to stop. The man was ordered to attend therapy sessions.
I mean, what is he hurting? He just wants to smell a little toe jam. I mean, come on. I mean, I had a guy once offer to buy my shoe from me that I had been wearing.
You had a real good chance to beat OnlyFans to the punch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why some people like the smell of feet, but I got told last week by my mother-in-law that I was weird when I admitted that I like the smell of skunk. Like dead skunks on the side of the road. They smell very sweet to me. They do. They
Mm-mm.
smell very Oh, Buffy, more content for her site.
Which is really funny because at the same time, Amos said, OnlyFans content for Buffy.
Well, we will keep my feet out of that, Buffy, but
So, did you hear? There's obviously a theme tonight. Did you hear about an opera in this was in let me make sure I understand. Stuttgart, Germany. Okay. It was an opera in Stuttgart, Germany. It's called Sancta, and it's by Florentina Holtzinger. And during the opera, 18 people had to leave needing medical attention.
why?
Let me explain.
Uh-oh.
So overall, the end of the performance, there was applause. They seemed to enjoy the boundary pushing show. And by boundary pushing, I don't mean just kind of nudging it. I mean, they kicked the effing door in. Okay. This opera features nuns, sex scenes, mutilation, and real blood. And when I say sex scenes, I don't mean simulated.
Oh, they were doing.
So, yep. Florentina Holtzinger's Sancta also includes naked roller skating nuns and a depiction of a wall of crucified naked bodies. During performances on the 5th and 6th of October, 18 people needed medical attention from staff. A few of them suffered from nausea during the boundary pushing show. One instance took place before the show even started, and in 3 instances, an ambulance was called to the venue. Despite this, opera goers seemed to enjoy the performance and applauded after. The spokesperson said, "Of course, we highly value the well-being of our audience. That is why our staff is always excellently prepared for these kind of incidents, which happen during other performances too, albeit in smaller numbers. By all means, we had informed our audience about sensitive content before the performances. The great applause after indicates that the vast majority of the people knew what the performance was about." Through the almost 3-hour performance, the spokesperson said there were 2 scenes lasting only a few minutes that, quote, might be hard to watch. One scene was described as having a small piece of flesh cut from the back of one of the performers, and another where 2 other performers were pierced together to attach ropes and lifted them up. They also highlighted certain light effects throughout, which could have also been responsible for some incidents. Let's see.
Why the
Uh-huh.
hell are they cutting pieces of skin off during an opera performance?
I don't know. This choreographer, Holtzinger, she's 38.
She needs
Known
some
for her boundary
therapy.
pushing performances. Yeah, with her all-female cast often performing partly or fully naked, and previous shows have featured tattooing, masturbating, and action paintings with blood and fresh excrement. In an interview with the same outlet earlier this year, she said, "Good technique in dance to me is not just someone who can do a perfect tendu, but also someone who can urinate on cue." Sancta is based on the controversial 1920s opera Sancta Susanna, the story of a nun who represses her own desires. Holtzinger's show is advertised as for people aged 18 and over. And despite the incidents, further shows in Stuttgart and Berlin have since reportedly sold out. This is like the best thing that could have ever happened to her. I will say, allow me to say that obviously when I read this, I immediately went to go see if there was video of this
Of
show just to see
course you
exactly what was
did.
going on. And I found, of course, the German website, and that's fine. I don't care about the language. The singing is incredible. I mean, incredible. This
It's
isn't just
opera.
like, it's not like performance art with a side of singing. This,
It's like real.
it is opera, right? Of course, it's really hard to listen to a nun when right behind her on a wall that has ropes down it and also what look to be climbing, like the climbing rocks.
Uh-huh.
There are 2 people against a wall getting it on.
I mean,
Also,
are
there
these
was a
real
video.
nuns? Are they just dressed up as
No, no,
nuns?
no, 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 no. They're just
Okay,
dressed up.
just because I was like, I hope they're going to confession the next day.
There there also was a very quick video of a bell, right? Like a church tower bell, and it is hung
Uh-huh.
up in the air, way up high, and there is a woman upside down in the middle of the bell as if she was the what is that thing called? The thing that rings the bell?
Pendulum, I don't know,
Yeah,
the thingamabob.
and the bell is swinging, and she's literally banging against the side of the bell.
Maybe it
It's is
was
wild.
that's crazy.
Just wild. So that I cannot show that on here, or I will have to go back to training.
I was
Um,
fixate, say, yeah, let's
so
not show that, but I'm gonna just go on a limb and say Cirque du Soleil is not going to be showing this anytime soon.
well, Cirque du Soleil has its own
They get a little risque, but
kind of.
there's a difference between risque and that stuff.
They have an adult-only show called Zumanity, Cirque du
I've seen
Soleil does.
Zumanity twice.
You have seen, okay, so is it
Twice.
like what is it what is
They're
it?
just
Is it adult?
simulating.
Is it
They like, one of
oh,
the guys pulls out a fake stuffed thing out of his pants. The girl lifts her skirt up and she's wearing like the nude bodysuit underneath, and there's like hair glued to it. So then they, mimic having sex. So it's nothing It's
Yeah,
all
that's not even
mimicking.
close.
Yeah, I mean, you see
Um,
more at a topless bar or down in New
yeah,
Orleans
not
on Bourbon Street. Just walking down Bourbon Street, you would see more than you see in
not in
Zamanity.
comparison to this. Let me
Oh, I forgot
hold on.
something.
What?
I have something that I need to go grab. I never go off camera.
Okay, you go grab. I am going to quickly look for the video that I spoke about and just have you listen to the music. Hold on. All right, hold on. Okay,
I thought
all
we
right.
said
I
we
want you
weren't
to
showing
listen
that
to.
video.
I'm not. I'm just playing the music.
Okay.
So listen to this. It's really impressive.
Okay, you can't make those faces when we can't see.
I can show you later.
Okay. So you talking about that made me remember I saved a Jello shot from Double H's birthday party Saturday for tonight.
Nice. Time to take it. Time to take it because we're about to get into your case. Bells asked, how long do these last? That performance is 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So it's a full length opera. Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the trailer for it, Sancta, just look up Sancta Opera Stuttgart, and then the trailer will pop up, and it's on YouTube. So, I mean, I don't
Okay.
understand how that's on YouTube, but if I show the video that's on YouTube, I get in trouble.
How? Yeah, how is that? It's on YouTube, but
I
if
don't know. We
you
can give
show
it a
it,
shot.
I don't think we need to get in trouble again.
Well, I don't
I
know how we get in
mean,
trouble for that. It's very obvious it's from YouTube.
look, I got it to come out perfect.
Oh, look at that. That was ASMR Jello shot, is what that was.
Ooh, I forgot they were really spicy.
Ooh, spicy.
Ooh, they were a little strong. I'm gonna need it for my
strong.
case.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
Well,
Spicy
perfect.
means a lot
Because
of
it is
alcohol.
time.
Well,
It's
before we
time
get
for
to
Teri's.
it, I will tell
Nope,
you what
yep.
I'm drinking because I
Mhm.
thought since we were doing supermodels that I should drink something a little bit more fancy. It's just
Mhm.
Prosecco.
Oh,
It's nothing overly fancy.
well, I'm a cheap hoe, so I still have my boxed wine here.
Box wine is good, and then I have my bottle of water to keep myself hydrated.
Not only that, but it's boxed wine in a bourbon glass. So go me.
I mean, as long as the box wine isn't a year old,
No, it's not a year.
like that
old.
one time, then we're okay because that
Okay.
really
One
freaked
time
me
at
out.
band camp. It was one time at band camp.
So I do need to make sure we tell everybody this episode contains extremely graphic content, adult language, and there is my guy is a original P. Diddy. So that could be triggering for some. So I just want to tell you if I'm not going to get graphic into the details, but considering Prince Andrew and this guy were friends, that should tell you a little bit about the guy.
I was asked what brand,
Frenzia.
and yes, it should. It should. It sure should.
So
All
the
right.
first thing is I practiced saying this name. Peter J. Nygard was born Pika Juhana Nygard in Helsinki, Finland. I worked on that one.
Yay!
On July 24th, 1941. And if you haven't heard of him, it is a name that once stood like a Coco Chanel almost with luxury fashion, and he was hugely successful. What?
Did he also have luxury fashion with a side of Nazis? Because that was Coco Chanel.
Oh, I didn't know that about Coco Chanel.
Oh. She was one of my characters that I talked about on Celebrated Monsters. She indeed lay with the enemies, with the Nazis, in order to obtain full ownership of a perfume company that she used to have that was owned by Jewish people. So she took advantage of the new laws that the Nazis enacted in order to get her perfume company back. And the only reason she avoided prosecution is because guess who stood up for her? Winston Churchill.
Oh my.
You're welcome.
So that means no more
The
number
more you
no more
know.
number 5? Oh,
God, she's dead. What does it matter?
I know, but still. And Coco Chanel bought my favorite winery, St. Superi in Napa.
Yeah, she's got quite a story.
There.
She's
Did my sign of the cross. I
a
should be good.
monster. Alfred Hitchcock is a monster. John Wayne is an absolute monster.
At least John Wayne was a good-looking monster.
But was he?
Not
Or
really,
were the options just very
I was
limited?
say I think the options were just limited.
Also,
Well,
he made like 170 movies in his career. He was everywhere.
he was everywhere. Well, I'm gonna just tell you, my guy, Peter Nygard, was not attractive. If you don't know what he looks like, Google a picture. He's not attractive. But he was a Finnish-Canadian businessman. He built a huge empire in the fashion industry. He founded Nygard International in 1967, and it became a household name in women's apparel. So if you haven't heard of him, he was often called the polyester king. He was the one who brought polyester fabric to mainstream.
He looks like a more street version of Liberace.
Yeah, no,
Like
he's not.
he's Liberace with street smarts, even though I know he didn't have them. That's his look.
Yeah, he's just yeah. But the thing, so beneath the glamorous facade of wealth and success lay a dark and disturbing reality, which I think nowadays we're getting smarter about looking for that, because over the
Mhm.
years, Nygard's name became increasingly associated with allegations of sexual abuse, trafficking, and a series of legal battles that finally culminated in his arrest and conviction in 2023. But guys, just wait until you hear the timeline. But his life in
No.
early Finland, what? No.
No, I'm just kidding. I was like, no.
But no, they immigrated to Canada, and they say it played a crucial role in shaping his identity and ambition because growing up in post-war Finland was rough. So they immigrated over to Canada, and they
Did
faced the challenges of rebuilding their lives after losing everything in World War II.
so it played a crucial role. Did he identify as a moose? What is a Mountie? How
So
did this?
coming
You'd
from
think that,
Finnish
yeah.
to Canada, Finnish is a much more simple place. Like, they don't collect all the doodads and stuff that we do. If they have money, they don't show it. Where moving to Canada, he got really ambitious because he saw money, labels, this, that. So
Yeah.
that is what kinda shaped him. It made him greedy. Let's just be honest.
Do you, do, do you? He moved when he moved.
He was 11 years old when he moved from
So it
Finland
was
to
at.
Canada.
So around. I'll just say the number that I have here that's closest to World War II is 1941,
Mhm.
which is, I know, but there
He was
were a
born in
grand
41.
total. Oh, he was? Okay. But when he moved, when he was born, there were a grand total of 239 Finnish people in the area in which he moved to. And even today, there's only about 3,500.
Mm.
And in 2016, 144,000 claimed Finnish ancestry. So there's not a lot.
There's not
He
a lot.
truly was in a completely different. It's not like
It
the
was.
French, right?
Right.
So
Right. I mean, it had to have been shocking. So, but he was exposed to a new culture, language, and opportunities that they say eventually fueled his entrepreneurial spirit. Okay. Now, his education helped contribute to his success. He went to the University of North Dakota, got a business degree in 64, and everyone said he demonstrated an early aptitude for business. So, you just meet those people that are just, you can just tell they're good in business, right? Why are you pointing at me?
because you're that person that
Oh,
I've
I'm
met
like,
that's good at business.
why? I'm like, what did I do? Now, his entry into the fashion industry was somewhat serendipitous. He took a job as a sales manager for a small manufacturing company where he was like, ooh, there's a lot of potential in women's fashion. So it led him,
Hmm.
he purchased 20% of that company and he later outright bought it and rebranded it as
Wow.
Nygard Apparel in 1967.
Crap.
He graduated college in 64, bought this company and rebranded by 67. I mean,
I mean, he knew what was up.
yeah. So they said his ability to identify market trends and capitalize on them became the hallmark of his business. And it propelled him to create one of Canada's most successful fashion brands. And every time I read Canada, all I keep hearing in my head is Sparkle Puss. All I hear is
Listen,
Amber in my head.
I've told yeah, right. I've told this joke before. I don't know if it was here, but you know how they ended up like naming Canada, right?
No.
So they got together, they were at a table, and they were trying
Who
to figure out what to
together?
call it. And they were talking to each other, and they were like, "Oh, let's do this. CANADA," and that was it.
I didn't get it.
Because Canadians say A.
Okay.
CANADA spelled Canada, but also A. Because
A.
Canadians say A.
Okay.
A.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anyway,
Never mind.
going
Moving on.
back to my people, because I'm like going, I need to get my hair blonde because I did not catch that. So initially, his company focused on sportswear manufacturing, but like I said, they expanded
Mhm.
into women's apparel, becoming known as the polyester man. But they rose to prominence, producing clothing under various brand names such as Nygard Fashions, Nygard Slims, Bionica or Bianca Nygard, ADX, Tanjay, Alia, and Allison Daly. So they had a lot of brands. Now,
Yeah.
you will find out that some of those brands are named for his daughters. But by 2009, his success in the fashion industry had earned him a place among the wealthiest Canadians with a net worth of 817 million Canadian dollars, which grew to an estimated 900 million Canadian dollars. I don't know what the difference
Yeah.
is
Well,
between Canadian
that's
and
only
American.
652 million. So
But in Canada, it was a big deal. Now, the headquarters were strategically located in Times Square, New York, symbolizing his ambition and the global reach of his fashion empire. Now, the opening of his fashion concept retail store in Times Square in November 2009 marked the peak of his business success. But as his empire grew, so did the controversy surrounding him. So, Peter Nygard's success in the fashion industry was marred by numerous legal battles and allegations of sexual misconducts that date back several decades. The first known allegation against Nygard occurred in 1968. A
The
year
decade of love,
after,
man.
I know, but a year after, he bought out the company, when Winnipeg
Right.
police charged him with a sexual offense. However, charges were dropped after the alleged victim declined to testify. I'm going to just come out on a limb here and say I'm getting rid of the word alleged. She was
Yeah,
scared to
I'm pretty sure
testify.
he paid her to shut up.
I'm like, she was scared. And
And then
this
maybe
pattern
4
of
years later, he paid him again.
This pattern of allegations followed by dropped charges would become a recurring theme in Nygard's life. Money talks, bullshit walks. I mean, let's just be honest.
Mhm.
Because he definitely was not attractive.
No,
I
he
mean, he
was
was not.
not.
I mean, even in the
No.
dark, that man was not attractive. I mean, found a picture of him in just a swimsuit. There was nothing, even when he was younger, that was attractive, in my opinion. But in the 1980s, he faced another charge of sexual assault involving an 18-year-old woman. Again, charges were stayed because the victim declined to testify. But guys, despite these allegations, he continued to build his fashion empire, seemingly
Of
untouched by
course.
the legal trouble that surrounded him. Now, before I go, I am going to admit I did go down a rabbit hole today. I wanted to know if he and P. Diddy knew each other. I could not find that they ever went to each other's
Uh,
places.
P. Diddy's ego is so large, I can't see him ever interacting with another fashion person.
Oh, just wait until you hear about his parties.
Eh, boy.
Yeah. In the 1990s, Nygard settled sexual harassment complaints by 3 former employees, and I think it's called Manitoba.
Yeah, Manitoba.
Hey, I said it right. Further adding to the growing list of accusations, the settlements did little to tarnish his public image, and he continued to enjoy the success and wealth that his empire brought him. Now, the turning point in his life came in the mid 2010s when allegations of sexual misconduct, sex trafficking, and other criminal activities began to surface more frequently. In 2015 and 2017, Nygard was investigated by the FBI over claims of sex trafficking. And the United States Department of Homeland Security also investigated him for 9 months in 2016. But despite this, he managed to evade serious consequences and his empire remained intact. Yeah, the walls began to close in on Nygard in 2020. On February 25th, 2020, the FBI, in collaboration with the New York City Police Department, I would like to think Olivia Benson was involved, raided Nygard's International's New York headquarters as part of a sex trafficking investigation. And this raid marked the beginning of the end for Nygard's fashion empire. But guys, you're going to hear a lot more. In March of 2020, following the FBI raid, Nygard announced that he would step down from his position as chairman of Nygard International and divest his ownership interest. However, a judge later stated there was no evidence that Nygard actually resigned and said he still owned 100% of the company's shares and that he was a liar.
Of course. Of course he
Yeah.
was.
So this legal ambiguity did little to save the company. They did file for Chapter 15 bankruptcy. And guys, I thought bankruptcy was Chapter 11. or chapter 13?
Not in. Oh, this was in New York.
Yeah, what is chapter 15? I decided not to go down that rabbit hole, but it's okay.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Insolvency that involves multiple countries.
Okay. I was like, I don't know what chapter 15 is. Now, a day later, a Manitoba judge ordered a group of Nygard companies into receivership, signaling the collapse of this once thriving empire. That one shot has me already having trouble speaking. Wow. We did 4 of them on Saturday.
It was
Okay.
spicy.
The allegations against Nygard paint a disturbing picture of a man who used his wealth and influence to exploit vulnerable women and girls. And like I said, these allegations span several decades. Some, like I said, back to 1968. But I'm going to give you a timeline of some of the most significant allegations. And I'm going to tell you, if you have a drink, you're going to want to grab it because you're going to get pissed off that he got away with it for so long. 1968, like I mentioned, he was charged with a sexual offense. Charges were dropped. Victim didn't want to testify. 1980, he faced charges of sexual assault involving an 18-year-old. Person refused to testify. In 1990, he settled those sexual harassment claims. Then between 2015 and 2017, he was investigated by the FBI. November 24th, 2019, the Bohemian police began investigating 6 allegations of sexual assault against Nygard, all involving victims who were under 16 at the time of the alleged assaults. But guys, today is October 17th, 2024. No charges have been filed against Peter Nygard by the Bohemian government. So in 2020, he faced 2 separate lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault. By February 13th, 2020, 10 women filed a class action lawsuit against Nygard in New York, alleging that he had sexually assaulted them at his Bahama residence between 2008 and 2015. 7 of the women were under 18. Okay. Then a day later, Bohemian police investigate the allegations by 4 different women. Still no charges had been filed. By April 2020, 36 new women joined the lawsuit, bringing the total to 46. That's not all, guys. By June 17th, that total was 57.
All right.
This is where I got really pissed. August 17th, 2020, 2 of Nygard's sons sued him, accusing him of directing a known sex worker to sexually assault them and make them men.
Wow.
It was the same sex worker, and it was years apart. We'll get more into that. Yeah. So he was arrested in Winnipeg in December 2020. He was extradited to the U.S. October 2021. Nygard was charged in Canada with multiple counts of sexual assault and forcible confinement. He was given an 11-year sentence. 11 years. I mean, he is older than shit, but yeah.
Well,
Now, like I said, his troubles really reached their peak in 2020, but in February 2021, Nygard was denied bail and faced extradition to the United States. Throughout 2021, all of this legal stuff kept going. On October 1st, 2021, Nygard agreed to be extradited to the United States to face the charges against him. Yeah, but like I said, they found him guilty, 11 years. Okay. But what was really creepy During the trial in Canada, the women actually reported, and the women were between 16 and 28. These assaults took place in the corporate office in Canada, where Nygard had a luxury bedroom at the company headquarters. The bedroom had a spa, a shower, mirrored ceilings and doors, and the doors automatically locked when you went in and had to be unlocked from someone on the other side, or you had to use a special code to get out. Yeah. So he is facing the extradition to the US. The preliminary inquiry for the charges is scheduled for January 28th, 2025. Now,
Huh.
in a yeah, I'm like, why does it take so long? But he's been involved in several other legal battles, including a long-standing feud with his neighbor, Louis Bacon, who lived at Lyford Cay in the Bahamas. The feud between Nygard and Bacon began in 2005 and escalated over the years, resulting in a lot of public disputes. Now, I gave you some pictures of it's called Nygard Cay. If you want to share those,
Yeah, sure.
we can share those. But I mean, this property shows the excess and ultimate, I don't know the word for it. It was insane how big this property was. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
ridiculous.
when you came to the property, and it was mostly females who were invited, they took your passport, your identification, your keys if you were driving, took your photo. They would send the photo to Nygard and his security team, and he would decide if they were attractive enough to be let in.
Of course he would.
And he had pamper parties
It's weird.
where he provided them with the date rape drug. He would notify the bar. I mean, look at it. The property is beautiful. But once again, the women could not leave the property. There was a gate. You could not leave, and he took your passport. So now, with the end of him, the Bohemian government hasn't filed charges against him. They, however, did go to court and they took over the property. And they have started the demolition of Nygard Cay. So,
Good.
what I find interesting, the community says the demise of the property was a bittersweet victory. But while the removal of the estate structures help address some of the environmental damage caused, because guys, he didn't get permission before he did construction. He did not try to protect the
Pay him off.
environment whatsoever. Okay. And like they said, the legacy of what took place at the estate, the exploitation of the young women, the illegal construction just was awful. And like I said, it was once a symbol of luxury and excess, and now it's being torn down. What is interesting, and I did not go down this rabbit hole, that some of the stuff has been torn down, but some of it hasn't. And what's interesting, Google's picture of the property has been photoshopped. It's not an actual picture.
Really? Oh, look, I found another one.
Yeah, I mean,
Just kidding. That's a picture of Spooky Island from Scooby-Doo, the movie.
oh, I
But
was
it looks
like,
the same.
looks the same. But I mean, it had underground caverns. It had, you could swim with the sharks, you could swim with the dolphins. Yeah, it was the estate, they said, had extravagant parties, and the architecture was just amazing. Okay. But like I said, that legal battle between him and Bacon involved the installation of a large concrete slab on Bacon's property. So Nygard thought he could build this on the neighbor's property to solve a parking problem. Yeah. So it went round and round. But in 2007, Bacon installed industrial grade speakers at the edge of his property, pointing them at Nygard's house to disrupt the peace.
Jeez.
I mean, they were tit for tat. The feud spiraled into a global smear campaign. Nygard allegedly using fake news sites to tarnish Bacon's reputation. Sound familiar, anyone? Anyway, in January 2015, Bacon filed a defamation lawsuit against Nygard, furthering, the battle between them.
Yeah. Captain says, "We can't
No,
hang
we
with men on
cannot,
islands,
Captain.
ladies."
That's right. But
Mm.
in 2023, a judge awarded Louis Bacon $203 million in damages. Now, I'm curious how much he will get because, everything's been taken. But like I said, the pressure was put on him to relinquish control of that property. I mean, with the FBI investigation into his alleged sex trafficking underway and numerous lawsuits, Nygard's financial and legal standing had weakened. And the Bahamian government, which had long been frustrated with his disregard for environmental regulations. But guys, I want you to listen to that. They were upset about the environmental issues. They never filed charges on the 10 plus allegations of sexual assault against minors.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
I mean, they care about the environment. I mean, I have a huge problem with that, but the Bahamian Supreme Court seized the property, like I said, and Nygard had invested millions and millions of dollars into this estate. But by 2021, it was in repair. Now, here's what gets interesting, okay? Because it all caught up with him. I want to tell you about some of his guests who visited the property.
Uh-huh.
Prince Andrew and his family were guests at the property in 2000, which doesn't surprise me now that we know all of that, right? But I found a list of the people, and some of them, it hurts my heart. And I'm going to say, I am guessing he didn't host his pampered parties while these special guests were there. He had to mix kept his stuff on the down low. George H.W. Bush, Oprah
Great.
Winfrey, Robert De
wonderful.
Niro, Jessica Alba, Sean Connery.
No, not Sean Connery.
Like I said,
I disagree.
he did do stuff that was, on the other side, but
I mean, for some of these people, the list doesn't mean that they participated in
right.
this
That's it. They
stuff.
didn't go to the pamper
In fact,
parties.
I think I read that Jessica Alba, once she saw some stuff that was going on at the party, she
Yes,
left.
that's what I was getting ready to say.
So-
She was there filming
sorry.
the movie with Paul Walker. And now I can't think of the name of the movie.
Oh, it was
But they
Into
were
the Blue.
Into the Blue, and he invited her there, and she was like, yeah, something's not right here, and she got the heck out of Dodge. So, like I said, they started demolishing the buildings in April of 2023. But what's interesting about that, it's a Google Photoshop. So there is speculation that the government is keeping some of the buildings because they've claimed that land. So there is a whole bunch of hullabaloo around that. and it's a whole rabbit hole if you want to go down it. The one thing that I loved, the media played a crucial role in bringing Peter Nygard's crimes to light. I mean, several documentaries and podcasts have been produced about his life and the allegations against him. On December 17th, 2020, 2 days after his arrest, it was reported that Discovery Plus was releasing a series about him that they had been working on. They had interviews with his family members and former employees. Now, his personal life was just as interesting, okay? He has 10 children born to 8 different women. 10 by 8 different women. One of the women was a supermodel, Beverly Peel. She was signing a contract with him, and I didn't put this in my script, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you about it. He raped her the night she signed the contract, after she signed the contract, and she got pregnant and had his child and continued working for him because he had put her in a situation where she had to. When she told her son about the bad things his dad had done at 11, her son says, "Mom, you need to tell. You don't need to hide it anymore." And he convinced her to go public. And he had tried to hold up that persona that he was a devoted dad and yada, 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 yada. One of his sons, 2 of his sons are supporting the victims. One of his sons called out his dad when he saw his dad trying to make a move on an 8-year-old girl. And he was a whistleblower. And things went downhill from there because he stood up for them. Now, the mothers of his children all come from diverse backgrounds, you know. Some of them were romantically involved with him. Some of them, as we've learned, they became mothers because he assaulted them. So the legal and media storm surrounding his children, around his arrest, has impacted his children. 2 of his daughters worked for him in the company. So they lost their jobs. And like I said, 2 of his sons accusing him of orchestrating their sexual assault by a known sex worker. One of the sons was 15 when he was raped in the Bahamas at his dad's insistence that he be made a man. 14 years later, when his other son was 14, he was raped too in the Bahamas by the same woman.
That's called the Yep, nope, not gonna make that joke. This is shitty.
I mean, who does that? Who does that? I don't
He
know.
does.
I don't know. I just, like I said about Beverly Peel, she is the most famous victim who's come forward and given her name. A lot of them have kept their name to themselves, and I totally understand that and respect that. You've been through a lot. Now, in 2012, Nygard was awarded a Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, which now stands in stark contrast to who he is. And in 2002, the town of Manitoba, where he grew up, they had done a commemorative plaque and named a park in his honor. However, in May of 2020, guess what? They changed the name to Prairie Sentinel Park because nobody wanted that name on there. But the reason I wanted to bring this up, because I think it's becoming very important for us to understand that money, wealth, power can be used for bad. And do not sell yourself short. just because you want to go to a glitzy party and you think it's gonna be fun, don't go. Just gonna say, and if it's
Yeah.
on an island, don't go.
You could show up to a glitzy party and it's all champagne and fun, and then somebody breaks out the baby oil.
That's laced with GHB, because
Yeah.
Nygard would put GHB in the cocktails. That's why he
Oh,
had
of course he
special
would.
cocktails at his pamper party. Like I said, he had a brilliant business mind. He could have done a lot of good. He worked really hard, and we saw that he had smarts in business, but he is a disgrace. His wealth and success, all of the legacy he tried to build is gone. I mean, these allegations are not gonna go away. He has already been found guilty. You know, he's got 11 years in prison. I wanna believe he's 88 or 86 or he's 83. But he does still face legal challenges, and there's going to be further convictions when he comes to the US if he still lives. And he is gonna finish the rest of his life in prison, where I hope somebody is doing to him what he did to others. And I just wanna say, I hope all of his children I can't imagine what it would be like to have all of this come out about your dad and the sons, what they had to go through. So, I
Yeah.
want to send them all of my best, but that is my case.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. You know what else I don't like? I don't like the case I'm about to present, but here we are.
I don't know your case, so
So, first off, my bad for my voice being tired. I read 46 pages of Richard Allen's Odin memo last night from his defense attorneys on the transcript, and boy, it's tired. So, that is why I sound the way I do.
I kinda like it,
Um,
just
oh,
so you know.
thanks.
I like it when your voice is raspy. It
Tonight,
reminds me of
though,
that
we are
night
delving
in
in.
Denver.
You might want to further explain that.
No, we're just gonna
That
leave that
could.
and we're just gonna let that go. If they were watching the
Listen,
live if they were watching the live, they
we
know what happened.
we talked about the opera sancta. We talked about a lot of things in the beginning of this show, and we've got them in a certain mindset, and now we mentioned that, and that's not great. So
The only
toss that out
sex
there.
that was happening was between on Frankie and Grace. Or Grace and
And that was
Frankie.
between Martin Sheen and the other fella.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so tonight we are talking about a case that not only shocked the world, but it left a huge scar, a deep scar on the hearts of many. It's a story of beauty, success, and a bright future that were all cut short by a nightmare that none of us can even imagine. Abby Choi was more than just a Lady in Gray and Angie are like, Batman, where is she? Abby Choi was more than just a rising star. She was a daughter, a mother, and a friend. She was a young woman whose life was full of promise and love. Her elegance and kindness captivated those who knew her, and she had the world at her feet. But behind those smiles and glamour, there were shadows lurking, and shadows that would ultimately lead to an unspeakable tragedy. On that fateful day, Abby's life was brutally taken from her in a way that no one should ever endure. Her death wasn't just a loss for those who loved her, but a reminder of how quickly a beautiful life can be destroyed by the darkest sides of human nature. As Chief Judge Belvin Perry Jr. said in our interview with him on Monday, it's incredible what humans will do to other humans. Tonight,
Mhm.
I will talk about the devastating details of Abby Choi's murder, not just to tell a tragic story, but to remember her for who she was, a beacon of light whose life was stolen way too soon. This isn't just about a crime. It's about a life, a legacy, and the reminder that we always have to seek justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Now, Abby was not just a rising star in the world of fashion and modeling, but she was a force to be reckoned with. An individual whose elegance and style transcended borders and cultures. Born and raised in Hong Kong, Abby's passion for fashion, it rhymes. Didn't realize that when I
I
wrote
was
it,
like,
but when I'm
you
saying it,
did good. I was getting ready to say Lady
I'm a
Grey did
poet.
great.
Oh, it was me this time. You will notice it's lacking. It's not Lady in Grace. Um, so her passion began early, and she quickly made a name for herself in an industry where true success is really hard to attain. Much like, I don't know, live streaming and podcasting. Uh, her career blossomed as she walked the runway and graced the covers of magazines, captivating audiences with her striking beauty and effortless charm. Her unique sense of style was her signature, and she quickly became a fixture at high-profile fashion events. She was
She's
frequently seen
beautiful.
at Yeah, right? She's
I didn't
frequently
know who
seen
she
at
was.
Paris Fashion Week. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And other major global fashion hubs. Her collaborations with prestigious luxury brands further solidified her status as a sought-after model. Whether posting in avant-garde designs or elegant couture, I learned those words from RuPaul's Drag Race, Abby had an ability to make fashion come alive. Her confidence on the runway, paired with her creativity and eye for detail, made her stand out. She was very, very, very special in that world. Her rise in fashion was also mirrored by her growing presence on social media, where she shared her journey, her looks, glimpses of her personal life with an audience that just continued to grow. She used platforms like Instagram to showcase her life, both as a professional model and a mother. Fans from all over the world were drawn to her, not only for her fashion expertise, but also for her down-to-earth approachable nature. Now, her posts often combined a mix of high fashion and family life. It painted a picture of a woman who balanced the glamour of modeling with the responsibilities of motherhood. And I mean, beyond her career, her most cherished role was the mother to 4 children. Uh, she was a devoted and loving mother. She prioritized her children despite her busy schedule. And her Instagram often featured heartwarming moments with her kids, giving her followers a good look into the softer side of her life. And from birthday celebrations to simple moments of joy, it was very, very clear that Abby's children were everything to her. Of
The way
course,
they should be.
balance. Right, right. Of course, balancing a demanding career, even if successful, with raising 4 kids is no easy task. Abby took that challenge and she did it gracefully. Even as she traveled all around the world for fashion shows and photo shoots, her commitment to being present for her kids remained unwavering. And those who knew her best spoke of the deep love she had for them and the lengths she would go to ensure their health and happiness. Her personal relationships were often, as with other celebrities, at the center of the public's interest, particularly her past marriage to Alex Kwong and her more recent relationship with Chris Tam. Her marriage to Alex Kwong marked a significant chapter. The couple had children together, and although their relationship eventually ended in divorce, Abby remained connected to the Kwong family, and this would become pivotal to her story later on. Despite their separation, Abby continued to provide financial support to both Alex and his family, which was a gesture from her that really truly showcased her generosity and compassion, even in the wake of a marriage that ended. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
co-parenting's
and
one thing.
right,
Wow. I mean,
paying for your ex-husband
she's
to live and
she's a
his
better
his
person
family to
than
have an
me.
apartment.
Yeah, she's a better
Mhm.
person than me.
So While Abby had moved on in her personal life, that continued support created a complicated dynamic between her and her former in-laws. Despite despite difficulties or past tensions, she decided to maintain financial ties. At the time of her death, she was in a committed relationship with Chris Tam, a businessman with whom she had a very happy life. He was supportive. Their relationship was a fresh start for Abby, and together they created a family that reflected important values for Abby, including love, partnership, and respect. This relationship offered Abby the peace and stability that she was not able to get from her previous relationships. Chris Honestly, Chris sounds like a great guy. And he was key in her personal and professional journey, and he supported Abby and raised her kids,
Sounds like Double
which
H.
is amazing, right? Right? If Double H was from Hong Kong. um, the first sign that something was wrong came when Abby failed to pick up her children from school on February 21st, which is a task that she rarely missed. Her family and friends immediately grew concerned. After all, this behavior was completely out of character. And when no one could reach her and her location, uh, and her location was still unknown, her family filed a missing persons report with the Hong Kong police, as one would do, right? Um, the police's initial investigation was launched to track down her movements, but they weren't able to find much in the first 2 days. Abby's family and friends feared the worst as the lack of communication from Abby and the quick disappearance continued. Um, and the search for her came to an extremely sad, grim, and horribly horrific conclusion. February 23rd, 2023. This is very recent. 2 days, this was 2 days after she was reported missing. Hong Kong police made a shocking discovery in a rented apartment located at Lung Mai Village, Tai Po. The apartment was reportedly rented by Abby's former father-in-law, and it was there that police found her dismembered body. Sorry,
No.
it escalated quickly. The crime scene was a house of horrors, an international version of Joel Guy Jr., except worse. Inside the apartment, police discovered Abby's severed legs stored in a refrigerator and a large soup pot containing various body parts, including a skull with a large fracture, ribs, and other remains. It was incredibly clear that parts of her body had been cooked in the pot. The crime and its incredibly brutal nature shocked the community and media throughout the world.
And me.
Captain made a comment. So that apartment was not paid for by her. That apartment was rented by her father-in-law. I'll explain that in a little bit. She did, though, pay for a very, very nice apartment for them.
Well,
This just
that's
wasn't
why he could afford to pay for the rent on this other apartment,
correct.
so she still helped pay for that.
Yes, yeah. Yes. Indirectly, yes. The crime shocked the community and media. The act was incomprehensible, and it demonstrated the killer's absolute disregard for human life. Investigators were stunned by the sheer amount of forensic evidence that was found in the apartment, indicating that it had been used for the specific purpose of dismembering her. The presence of tools painted a chilling picture of the methodical and premeditated nature of the crime. We will talk more about those in a little bit. Blood
So,
spatter and tissue were found.
did he rent this apartment just to kill her in it? Holy fuck. Oh,
Get ready. Blood spatter and tissue were found throughout the apartment, leading police to conclude that Abby had been killed and dismembered at this location shortly after she was abducted. Now, let's talk a little bit about the motive of the murder. At the heart of her murder was financial. It's always fucking money. Driven by greed and a growing fear of losing financial support. There was a dispute that centered around a multi-million-dollar luxury property in Hong Kong that Abby had purchased for her former in-laws. the Kwong family.
Multi-million?
Let me see if I can find a picture of this this
I
apartment.
mean,
Yeah,
the things humans do to each other.
I can't find something right off the bat, so I'm not going to continue to waste time. But there was a dispute that centered around that property. Though Abby funded the property, it was registered under the name of her former father-in-law, Kwong Kao. Now you'll notice that for typically the elders of a family, I call them by their last name first, their first
Right.
name last, because that's how they do
Mhm.
it. So name Kao, Kwong Kao.
Now,
This arrangement was
why was
a
it
result.
why was it in the father-in-law's name instead of the ex-husband's name? Is
I
it
don't
because
have
he
that
was the
answer.
elder
Yeah,
of
probably.
the family?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably. Also, um, her ex was not exactly the most trustworthy.
Okay.
And we'll find that out in a little bit here. So this arrangement was a result of Abby's aforementioned continued generosity. You see, Abby's financial success as a model and influencer meant that she was able to provide substantial financial assistance to her ex-husband's family. However, there were tensions within the family when Abby communicated that she needed to sell the property. The Kwong family was now financially dependent on her, and this would cut off a massive source of their financial security. The Kwong family, especially the father-in-law, feared that they would lose not only their home, but also their lifestyle, which had been largely sustained by her wealth. And that feeling of insecurity continued to grow, and it lit a fire under their feeling of financial instability. In addition, they resented Abby for her decision to sell the property. Now, I hate math, and I really hate this formula, but when you add all of those things together, you get a family that's driven to take extreme measures to protect their financial interests and the way they look to others. Abby's potential decision to withdraw her financial support to the family pushed the situation from tension to fatal violence. I'm going to take a quick sidestep real quickly. And the reason why I mention this is I thought it'd be a really good idea to kind of talk statistics and compare to them to the US to give you an idea of the context regarding how shocking this case was to Hong Kong and the world, but to Hong
But
Kong.
they're also very family driven. They protect their families.
Correct.
They're all about
Well,
family.
she weren't blood, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So the stats that I was able to find are from 2014, which are 10 years ago. So I think we should probably consider the divide, if there is one, worse, to be honest with you. Um, in terms of general crime levels, Hong Kong's ranked 88th. And that might sound high, but the United States has a level 4 times higher than Hong Kong at 30th. Hong Kong ranks 5th in regards to feeling safe walking alone at night, 97% more than the United States, which is at 60th. And they feel safe walking alone during the day, 19% more than the United States. In regards to fear of violent hate crime, worries about being attacked, worries about being insulted or mugged or robbed, those fears and worries are 2 times more in the United States than in Hong Kong. Now, in regards to violent crime, murders per 1 million, the United States is ranked 99th with 42 murders per 1 million in 2010, and Hong Kong's ranked at 192nd with 2.4 murders at 1 million in 2011. Then again, the United States is first with 120 guns owned per 100 residents, while Hong Kong is 131st with 4 per 100 residents. I'll just leave everyone with those thoughts. Come to the conclusions yourself. The point is, a murder of this magnitude, while it might only last a couple of news cycles here in the States, until the trial, that is, it would be a huge story in Hong Kong, especially if it involves someone like Abby Choi. So now that we have kind of that context, let's get into the details of the murder. The murder was not an impulsive act of violence. It was horrifyingly quite the opposite. This was a calculated plot, carefully orchestrated by the Kwong family. The plan was premeditated and involved not just one person going rogue, but multiple members of the family, each playing a role. I don't like the fact that I was able to add swerves to this story, but the swerves are ridiculous. On the day of her murder, Abby was lured to a rented apartment in Lung Mai village, Tai Po, under the false pretense of attending a meeting to discuss issues related to her children. The ruse was designed to make Abby believe the meeting was crucial for her family life, which would absolutely ensure her cooperation and attendance. Of course it would. Trusting the Kwongs, with whom she had co-parented her children, Abby went to the apartment unaware of what was set for her. Once she arrived at the apartment, the Kwong family leapt into action, pretty much ambushing Abby. Details of the attack show that Abby was quickly incapacitated, and the investigators believe that she was either killed immediately upon arrival or shortly after. The apartment itself had been carefully prepared for what was to follow, a plan to dismember her body and dispose of it in a way as to avoid detection. Inside the apartment, investigators discovered various tools that had been purchased for the purpose of mutilating Abby's body, including meat grinders, saws, and cleavers. The family even brought along large cooking utensils, including a soup pot, in an effort to further destroy her remains. Abby's legs, as I mentioned, were found stored in the refrigerator, while other parts of her body, including skull and ribs, were placed in soup pot. Her skull was fractured, indicating that she had suffered significant head trauma, which was possibly a result of blunt force before being dismembered. The scene inside the apartment can only be described as macabre, as body parts were stored and cooked. The Kwong family...
Was the mother-in-law involved in this?
We'll get there. The Kwong family was brutal, but they were also determined to destroy or completely eradicate all evidence of the crime. The dismemberment and attempted disposal of Abby's body were deliberate acts to make her disappear completely. The rented apartment was isolated, and the tools were chosen methodically in order to make the job easy and efficient. The investigators believe the family intended to slowly dispose of the body parts, either by cooking or through other means, to ensure that Abby would never be found. No body, no crime, I suppose. Now, the investigation began immediately. The discovery of Abby's fate left investigators scrambling for answers and launched an intensive investigation to identify those responsible for her death. Within hours, the police had pieced together Abby's final movements, and suspicions quickly turned towards her former in-laws, the Kwongs. Abby had maintained, as I mentioned, financial ties with them. Tensions were growing. That assisted, I would imagine. Investigators soon found evidence linking the family to the crime, particularly regarding the rented apartment where her remains were found. This was, well, pretty easy because the apartment was leased by Kwong Kao just weeks before the murder. With the investigators using forensic evidence from the scene, witness testimonies, and information gathered from Abby's closest associates, the police identified the Kwong family as key suspects in her murder. The investigation pointed to a deliberate plan that had been set in motion by the Kwongs. The difficulty with a crime like this, though, is that it's nearly impossible to find the entirety of the body. The search for the missing hands and torso and other body parts remained ongoing. More than 100 officers were tasked with searching for the missing hands and torso in various locations. As the investigation continued to unfold, the police acted swiftly to apprehend the people involved in Abby Choi's murder because it was, in fact, multiple individuals. I'm going to go through these individuals, but then at the end, I will do just a list of them and what they did, just so we have a nice summary.
I don't like these people. I'm just going to say right now, I don't like this family.
I don't either. I actually never looked up their pictures or what they look like.
I don't want to know.
That is
Do they have the
that
death penalty in Hong Kong?
I'll talk about that too.
Okay.
I'm hitting all the questions tonight.
I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
So on February 25th, 2023, just 2 days after her body was discovered, the authorities arrested 3 suspects. First was Kwang Kao, as stated before, who had rented the apartment where Abby's body was found, and it was he who had orchestrated the plan to kill and dismember her. Then there was Anthony Kwong, Abby's former brother-in-law, who also played a big role. Anthony had acted as the driver who transported Abby to the rented apartment under the guise of discussing family matters related to her children. He was also involved in the planning and execution of the dismemberment and body disposal, and that made him a key figure. And then, to answer your question, the third person was Alex's mother, Jenny Lee, who was also arrested on suspicion of obstruction of justice. Investigators believe she assisted in covering up the crime and tried to mislead authorities during the investigation. Her arrest showed the community that the entire Kwong family was complicit in some capacity in the murder of Abby Choi.
But you didn't mention her ex-husband.
After a
He came in
citywide
too?
manhunt by police, Alex Kwong, Abby's ex-husband, was arrested after he unsuccessfully attempted to flee Hong Kong. He was captured while attempting to escape by boat and was arrested at Tung Chung Pier and taken into custody. Alex tried to evade capture by fleeing to outlying islands, likely hoping to leave the jurisdiction before authorities could close in on him. His arrest was the first breakthrough in the case, but that's not where the involvement ended. That's not where the list of horrendous people stopped, because of course there are more people.
How many people?
And we will get there. Seven. Yep, I said 7. Before that, though, on February 27th, 2023, the police proceeded with murder charges against Alex Kwong, his brother and father, while charging his mother with perverting the course of justice. All suspects were denied bail. Not only that, but Alex Kwong was a suspect behind 7 alleged cases of theft that occurred nearly a decade before Abby was killed, which is why I think that he wasn't trusted with some of this stuff, right? It's why I think his name wasn't on the apartment.
She knew he wasn't. Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason why they weren't together anymore. And he had once ran despite being scheduled to appear in court in 2015 as well. So Kwong was charged for all those cases as well. Yay. On March 2nd, 2023, a 6th suspect, 41-year-old Lam Shun, was arrested on suspicion of aiding and abetting Alex to escape Hong Kong by boat for a payment sum of Hong Kong $300,000, which is $38,626.57 United States. He was charged on March 6th, but was granted bail. Here's my favorite part and worst part, is that I'm pretty sure Alex used money that was given to him by Abby to do this. I don't have proof of that, but where else was he going to get this money?
Well, obviously the family didn't get off their ass and get a job.
Yep.
Sorry.
A 7th suspect named Irene Pun Hao Yin, a 29-year-old Hong Konger and a friend of Alex, was also arrested in Shenzhen, China on March 7th for abetting Kwong in his attempted escape. She was charged on March 8th and was granted bail along with a travel ban to prevent her from leaving Hong Kong. According to the laws of Hong Kong, a conviction for murder carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment. Originally, the death penalty was the sole legal punishment for murder in Hong Kong before it was abolished in 1993. Now, judges are able to impose life sentences instead. So there is no death, life sentences.
I disagree for this family.
Well, yeah. And I'm sure they disagree right along with you.
Pick and choose. I know.
I will say this, though. I don't know what the prisons are like in Hong Kong, but I have a feeling it's worse than death. So
I hope so, because here in the States, I'm not saying prison's great, but you do get 3 squares, you get Nintendo or Boxy X things.
I am assuming that they are overpopulated,
Okay,
and that they're really shitty, because if there are that few murders, there's no reason to fund them that much, right?
that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
my thought. But I'm sure there's a lot of other shit that happens there. So I don't know. I'm talking out my butt. Um, in a development in the case, Abby's mother filed a court injunction to keep Kwang Kao from selling the property that was linked to Abby's murder. In addition, she sought to seek a declaration that her daughter was the beneficiary owner of that apartment. On May 8th, 2023, 6 of the 7 suspects behind Choi's murder appeared in court. Over 30 exhibits were seized by the police, including knives, chainsaws, and hammers from the village. In December of 2023, Alex Kwong and 2 of the in-laws were charged with preventing Choi's burial. In April 2024, Lam and Pun were charged jointly with preventing the course of justice by assisting Alex Kwong to escape Hong Kong. So, in summary, the following people, if you can call them human beings, were charged and involved. 1. Alex Kwong Kong Chi, 28 years old, this ex-husband was. Choi's ex-husband, charged with murder. Anthony Kwong Kong Kit, 31. Alex's brother and Choi's former brother-in-law, charged with murder. Kwong Kao, 65. Alex Kwong and Anthony Kwong's father, Choi's former father-in-law, charged with murder. Jenny Lee Shui Hung, 63. Alex Kwong and Anthony Kwong's mother, Choi's former mother-in-law, charged with preventing the course of justice. Ning Chi Wing, 47. Kwong Kao's... By the way, I didn't even get into this, but Kwong Kao had a mistress. Tossing that
Of
out there.
course he did. He probably needed the money to pay for
He
her
was
place.
he was 65, she was 47. She was charged with assisting a murder suspect. Number 6, Henry Lum Shun, 41, Alex Kwong's friend, charged with abetting a murder suspect. And then finally, number 7, Irene Poon Hao Yin, 29, charged with abetting a murder suspect. While awaiting trial for murdering his ex-wife, Alex Kwong was sentenced to 3.5 years imprisonment for the 6 other charges of theft and jumping bail, all which he pled guilty to. Now, to kind of wrap this up, the murder left Abby's family and partner Chris Tam devastated. Shortly after the discovery of her remains, her family and Chris released statements through their representatives expressing their grief over the tragic loss of Abby. Chris Tam, who was by Abby's side through her rise in the fashion world and had helped co-parent her children, was heartbroken. His statement reflected the anguish that he felt, calling Abby the love of his life and a devoted mother who had so much more to give to the world. The family requested privacy, and appropriately so, emphasizing that they needed to mourn in peace and come to terms with the horrifying reality that Abby is no longer with them. Despite the desire for privacy, their grief has been palpable as they struggle to comprehend how someone so full of life and kindness could be torn from their life in such a violent way. The emotional toll extended to her children. Abby's family promised to protect and care for her children, promising that they are surrounded by love. Her murder also, not just through her family, but her murder also impacted the fashion industry too, where she made a name for herself. Abby was a fixture in that area and collaborated with a ton of brands, and it's safe to say that her influence was growing. Tributes poured in from across the fashion world, expressing sorrow at the loss of someone who was both talented and generous. Social media was flooded with posts from her followers, many of whom admired Abby for her authenticity. There were moments of silence at fashion shows and online memorials as designers, models, and fans mourned the loss of Abby. And while Abby's death shocked the world, it also raised awareness of issues related to domestic violence, financial abuse, and the exploitation of successful women. Although no significant legal changes have yet resulted from this case, it's only been a year, The public discourse surrounding her murder has shown a light on these often hidden issues. Advocates for domestic violence victims have used Abby's case to highlight the dangers women face, even from those they once trusted and loved. In addition, the chilling details of how Abby was manipulated and ultimately killed by her former in-laws have prompted discussions about the legal protections for individuals in financial disputes, particularly in cases involving family dynamics. Her case has brought attention to the importance of addressing signs of exploitation and manipulation early, as well as the need for stronger legal frameworks to protect vulnerable individuals from financial coercion. Now, obviously, this case leaves us with a profound sense of loss, and one that words truly can't express, even though I was able to find like 18 pages to do it. The violence and betrayal that ended Abby's life leaves us with heavy hearts, especially without a legal conclusion, because it's still going on. But in the midst of this grief, we should always remember Abby for who she truly was. She wasn't just a victim of a horrific crime. She was a talented woman with dreams and ambitions. She was a mother who adored her children, a partner who loved freely, and a person who touched the lives of everyone she met. Her story reminds us of the unseen struggles that people face, even those who seem to live lives filled with beauty and success. It's a reminder that behind closed doors, hidden battles may be waged in silence. And it reminds me of the lyrics to a brand new song that was released on an album by Jelly Roll that's called Everyone Bleeds. And the lyrics are, "You can fly so close to heaven, make $1 million or barely make a living, riding high or down begging on your knees. Everyone bleeds, just like me." And that's the case of Abby Choi.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
I hated writing.
I
Also,
remember seeing social media posts about this person, but I don't follow a lot of that kind of stuff, so I never looked into it. I had no idea the atrocities.
and she was, I mean, she was both classically and in a modern sense. Even if she wasn't gorgeous, this is a really shitty way to go.
Oh.
Nobody should be, right?
Nobody should.
But just to give everybody just, a picture of
Yeah,
this,
she's
that's Abby.
but she was smart too. I mean, and she loved
She
her
was very smart.
children. She showed that you can still follow your dreams and still be a great mom.
For 4 children
Or I barely could survive
in
with
a
2.
in a quote unquote non-traditional family,
Yeah.
right? Co-parenting with someone, divorced from someone else. Yeah.
The thing that is going through my mind sounds like her father-in-law was more the one that had a problem than her husband.
Yes.
Because husband was stealing, robbing, and getting money. But has people ever heard the saying, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you"? I mean, she went out of her way and still helped them. And they did this to her.
That's Kwang Kao right there. Let me see if it names the other folks. Alex Kwong, right here. Kwang Kao, Jenny Lee, and that's Anthony Kwong, Alex's brother. So fucking young.
Yeah.
And the father didn't give 2 shits
He didn't.
about it.
He ruined his entire family over money.
The entire family and then some. So hopefully I catch wind of, some of the results of this, but I guarantee you that if there was a case where Hong Kong would be like, shit, what happened in 93 where we got rid of the death penalty?
This
This is the case that's like fucking blow on the cartridge and plug it back in.
Yeah.
So
Her 4
it just hurt,
children.
it was, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna not cry here.
I
How
know.
those 4 children grow up, that a lot of times it's just one family member who does something so horrible. Oh, looks, the troll's back.
Oh, yes. The ultimate
It's okay.
troll. who
Hey,
has no life.
rapper, my makeup's just fine, honey. Normally
It's
it's
okay. He's
one
never been
family
a
member.
woman. He doesn't know what good makeup looks like.
Normally it's one family member, but can you imagine being a child? It's your dad, your grandfather, your grandmother, your uncle, plus all these other people. But I mean, four people that are supposed to love you, protect you, and take care of you.
Yeah,
And then they take your mom. I mean, just
there's very little solace in this, but it is something. And when I read that Abby's family was taking them in and was going to show them what it looks like, or continue to show them what it looks like
Yeah.
to love and be surrounded by that,
yeah, they're gonna
I
get
like
what
lost it.
they're gonna get.
Yeah. And I am certain Abby set up Chris and her kids and her family in the event something ever happened.
I
So
can only imagine Chris is gonna stay in their lives. Just because Abby's gone doesn't mean he's gonna go away. Which makes
and
me
she
feel
really
good.
she reminds me somewhat of like my mom, where my mom selflessly connected with others, wanted to genuinely know who they, how they were doing, get to know their stories. And I think Abby was the same way. To get the fashion industry, which is very cutthroat,
Yeah.
to in general accept somebody like that is unheard of. And so I think even if her family was either not there or not up for it, I think her kids would have had, and Chris would have had a massive, and have a massive support system in that industry, which is incredible. Is he back? He's not back, is he?
He's back.
Oh, he's back.
You know what? I have to say, I love the fact he has nothing better to do than come on here and troll. I mean, hey, I love making a man's night. I
It's
mean,
the only
hey,
one that he'll ever have made.
that's right. So thank you for that. But I agree, because that industry is very close knit, and those children will have aunties, uncles, mentors.
For
It's
sure, and it's not as
still
good, obviously.
It's
It is
not.
not a 100% substitute, but it's something,
It is something.
and
And
that
look at the
makes the
type of
difference.
person Abby was, so them being raised by her family, they're gonna be good peoples too.
Yeah,
Thank
I agree.
God it's not their dad's side of the family. And I hope Kwong is somebody's bitch. I know I shouldn't say that, but I do hope so.
Considering that most of their stuff is, like, overpopulated, I'm gonna go with yeah. And considering most of the fellas in that prison probably know who Abby is, I'm gonna go with yeah.
Good. I hope
So
so. I hope he enjoys
in fact,
every push.
not only that, but I hope some of those guys in that prison have Abby's posters chilling on the wall. Not for Abby's
Oh,
sake, but so that he
that
has
would
to
be
stare
great.
at her. every day.
That's I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. Well, I
But
wish I
yeah,
could
I
say
mean,
I loved your
not to end
case,
it on it.
but I hated it.
Yeah, I know. All right, here. Let me end it with a really shitty joke. Shall I?
Sure, I would love it.
If you're American when you go in the bathroom and American when you come out, what are you when you're in the bathroom?
European.
Ding, ding, ding.
I know that one.
What did the fish say when he swam into the wall?
I don't know that one.
Damn.
You want to know my favorite joke? Do you know what Mickey's favorite vehicle is? A minivan.
That opens up for some fan fiction I'm not comfortable with.
He likes minivans. Do you know why Tigger was looking in the toilet?
He was looking
He
for
was
a little
trying to
poo?
find poo.
All right, I've got two more. Let
Okay.
me see if I can find. Actually, I lied. I got three more. More.
Okay, give it
All
to
right.
me.
All right, here's the first one. It's called the K9. It was the end of the day when I parked my police van in front of the station. As I gathered my equipment, my K9 partner Jake was barking, and I saw a little boy staring in at me. Is that a dog you've got back in there? He asked. Sure is, I replied. Puzzled, the boy looked at me and then looked toward the back of the van. Finally looked at me again and he said, "What'd he do?" All right, last one, called the vet. No, sorry, second to last one, called the vet. A woman brings her parakeet to the vet. The bird is stiff and lifeless. I'm sorry, miss, but this parakeet's dead. How can you know so quickly? She replies. Is there a better way so that you can be absolutely certain? The vet whistles and a black Labrador walks into the room. The lab sniffs the parakeet, then looks at the vet with sad eyes and shakes his head. A dog shakes his head, and I'm supposed to accept that, said the woman. You're going to have to do better than that to prove my poor parakeet is dead. The vet leaves momentarily and comes back with a cat. The cat hops up on the table and looks closely at the parakeet. After walking around it, she prods the bird a bit and then shakes her head and jumps off the table. Finally, the woman's convinced. As she turns to the doctor, the vet announces that she owes him $400. $400? She asks. How in the world is it that much just to tell me my parakeet's dead? Well, it would have been a lot cheaper, but with that lab report and CAT scan.
Okay, those are some great dad jokes. You got one more?
One more. What do you get when you combine a rhetorical question and a joke?
I don't know. Oh my freaking God. Okay.
You can take those one home to your kids. You guys, when we end this stream and we're still on here, Teri's gonna slice me.
But you know what?
But
I might
we gotta laugh.
be able to sleep a little better. I mean, I love true crime, but damn, that was dark tonight. So those jokes were a nice palate cleanser.
It's probably one of the darkest cases I've done in quite some time.
It is. It's as dark as a dearest mother's darkest secrets that we're working on about a Michella Blair who is bitch as evil.
I believe it. I just finished narrating and recording Women on Death Row, Michelle Lynn Mashad. And that case is a duo team, woman, man, and it is horrible. And I'll just throw this out there. It involves both people's children and their friends. And it is not something I had ever heard about.
I have
But
never
you will
heard
hear
of
about it in a few weeks. So,
Okay. Now, yeah. Well, like the judge told us, the things people will do to each other is horrific.
right.
But we also have to remember there's people who do a lot of good and who give lots of little hugs and kisses. And
Like Teri.
life would be
Teri.
boring if it was all glitter and pink sparkles and pink champagne glasses.
I'm okay with 100% sparkle puss. I'm fine with it.
Really, I don't think anyone can handle 100% of this all the time. Double H needs a break every now and then.
I don't know. 4 days, I was fine.
I was like, so you were
But then
fine.
again, I've got a little sparkle myself, so that I
Oh,
get that helps.
I think it was Rim Sparkle or Sparkle Rim. We'll have to ask Amber what it
Huh?
was. She gave you
Yeah, we'll have to
something
figure that out.
to go with my sparkle puss. Well, thank you. That was dark. When are you back on live again?
Sunday at 8 p.m. for Night Court.
For Night Court.
However, producer Tara has done a wonderful job cutting and editing and putting together Women on Death Row for for tomorrow at 7 p.m. And so that is
So there'll be a
happening tomorrow
premiere?
at 7 p.m. There's going to be a premiere. Again, it's at 7 Eastern, and I will tell you briefly who the woman is. Let me just grab it real fast.
Sorry, Belle just said Sparkle Rim sounds dirty.
Sure does.
Well, it's the
Sure does.
opposite
Sounds
of
like something that could
Sparkle
only
Puss.
happen in Vegas. What in the hell? You know what? 1 second. Sorry. This is a result of me not remembering stuff.
It
which is
happens as
not
we get
surprising
older.
to anybody. Right? Lorraine Allison Hunter. Lorraine Allison Hunter. This crime involves, let me just put it this way, and I say this at the beginning of the show. In fact, let me just give you the brief intro.
I would love it.
For the countless times love has been written and sung about, it still seems that some don't understand. Love is not a bullet in a gun, nor is it a life insurance policy. But in the case that we're covering tomorrow at 7, they got it all wrong. They were greedy, they were short-sighted, and they were twisted. And if that wasn't enough, the love from a husband and for a child was taken for granted, it was used, and it was shredded. And that is the case for tomorrow at 7.
I give us credit for one thing. We like dark shit. But that helps balance all of our sparkles. Because you got to have a balance.
Yeah. You do have to have a nice, lovely balance, which is very hard to explain to my therapist.
Luckily, my therapist likes sparkles too.
She's new. She'll come to accept.
She'll get there. Well, I did enjoy it, even though it was dark. But I think we should end. Pop on tomorrow night. I will try to pop on tomorrow night, but I might be too busy sparkling my puss.
It's a short video. In fact, you could probably watch the video while you do that. So,
even better.
So there it is. All right. Well, listen, everybody. As I always say, thank you for tuning in. Please, please, please take care of yourself, your family, your friends, and your community. And don't let anybody dull that sparkle puss. And shine on, you crazy diamonds. Shine on.
You know, I might need to become Diamond Puss. I have to talk about an upgrade. Anyway,
Those are
as I
forever.
always like to say, guys, stay safe. And somebody asked me why I said watch out, why I say watch out for crime. And it's because if you see something, say something. And so many of us don't. And that's why we need to be more observant about what's around us. So that's what I mean when I say watch out for crime. Just watch out. Okay. And obviously, enjoy your wine time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. We will see you. I'll see you on Sunday. But we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Till then.